Hey TCS viewers, Chris Nichols here from the camera store, and today we're looking at the brand new Olympus Pen F. Now, I've never been a big fan of the Pen series. I didn't feel the styling was really capturing the classic essence of those fantastic cameras, and you were missing out on a lot of features. They were really dumbed down. But looking at the Pen F already, I see a viewfinder. I want to take a look at that, and this thing is just physically gorgeous. But is it all looks, or is there some substance? We're going to find that out today. So the first thing you're going to notice when you pick up this camera is just the look of it, the design. I mean, whoever made this thing, the ergonomics and the looks of it, the aesthetics of it, they deserve a medal because this camera is just absolutely stunningly gorgeous. I cannot remember the last time I picked up a camera and liked the way it looked this much. It's beautiful to hold too. You know, basically carved out of a solid billet of aluminum. It's got a great feel, just clean lines, rugged, and nothing cheap looking about this. Now, when it comes to the dials and ergonomics, again, fantastic. Olympus have always done this well. First off, your two main control dials, beautiful spot. Your finger just naturally holds it. It's very, very well made, all metal and knurled very, very nicely. The exposure comp dial here on the back as well, good resistance, you know. I don't feel like I'm ever going to hit it by accident. It turns and clicks really, really nicely. We love the mode dial. Olympus does it the best. Push in button to lock it, push it out, and it's free turning. Fantastic. I even love the look of the off and on switch. You know, things like the black enameling around the shutter just looks and feels gorgeous. A lot of the people at the store have complained that you know, the front grip here just doesn't give you a lot of control or feel, but with the thumb design on the back, I've never felt like I'm going to drop this thing, and I think this keeps the classic aesthetic the same as the older cameras. And you could always throw something on the bottom. Someone's going to make a beautiful sort of little metal grip to go on the bottom here. The tripod thread on the bottom is one thing that does kind of worry me though. They did line it up with the lens, but it's really far forward, so your plates are going to stick off the camera body. That's going to kind of wreck the feel. Plus, I worry about it being so close to the front as far as strength goes, but you're probably not going to put anything huge as far as lenses go on this camera. Now, of course, one of the big changes on the Pen series is a viewfinder. I mean, a welcome addition. 2.36 million dots. It's very sharp, and I do like the way it looks incorporated into the bodies. Now, it's not perfect though, and this is one of the features on the Pen F that feels a little bit cheaper, a little bit lessened. You get a little bit of lag. If you're moving the camera around, there's just a little bit of lag, and the competition right now is pretty much getting rid of that, so that's unfortunate. The other thing too, magnification's not very high. Now, if you're an eyeglass wearer, you're gonna like that because you get good eye relief, but if you're not, you're just not getting a really punched in, nice, big viewfinder, and that's too bad on 4/3. Still, overall, it's a welcome change. I'm glad we have it here now, finally. Now, the LCD, fully articulating. I mean, that's fantastic. Nice and big, slim design, feels really good. I love the way it incorporates into the body. I do have a major complaint, though, about the EVF system here. Already today, I found issues where it's just not detecting properly. So I take my eye away, screen's not coming on, or I'm looking at the back of the screen and it seems fine, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, the light reflects in there or shadow hits it, I don't know what, and it kicks back to the EVF. And so it's totally unpredictable, and that's the worst thing you can have when you're shooting. So what I have to then find I have to use is turn off the eye monitor and then switch back and forth here constantly with the live view button. I mean, it's fine, it's in a good position, but then that means I can't customize that to do something else. So unfortunate implementation there. So you've got this contrasty light over here, bright sunlight hitting, lots of dark shadows in the buildings, and it brings up one of the interesting features here. There's a toggle right where my thumb goes, and if I push this, I can change my curves right there on camera. Now, of course, this is only for JPEGs, but it's pretty handy. I can raise and lower highlights and shadows, hit the info key, and do my overall midtones. Really, really smart. Now, again, JPEGs are kind of aimed at beginners, and beginners might be confused with curves at first, but at the same time, there's a lot of situations where a skilled photographer might not feel like shooting raw, but they still want to have control over their exposure, highlights and shadows, in a more, you know, complex way than just contrast slider. So that's actually really handy for skilled photographers shooting JPEGs. Now, of course, in traditional Olympus style, we've got our art filters. I know they keep pushing art filters, even though almost nobody I know cares about these filters. And so they've dedicated this front dial. Now we've got mono options, monochrome, we've got color choices, we've got art filters, creative filters, and the selector switch lets you move between these different scenes. I think this dial's in a great place. I think it'd be fantastic for autofocusing modes or anything else possible. I mean, this back dial here would have been great to incorporate those same features. Keep all the color, highlight, shadow stuff in one place. We're tying up two different things. There's so many art filters and creative choices in this camera that it can be mind-boggling for the beginner. Luckily, you can go in and turn off the ones that you're not going to use. But I just feel like very few people are going to use those things. It ties up a beautiful dial position, and it makes this camera very JPEG-centric, which kind of turns off anybody who wants to use it in a more advanced fashion. All right, so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and just try out these color filters and see what I think about it. So I've switched my dial here to color, push the back control here, and you know, you do get this really neat kind of interface. It's like moving hands around a clock. Pick a color and I can boost it or I can lower it for saturation. It looks really nice visually. It's not the most easy to use system. And again, the touch screen that's on this doesn't work, and that would be really helpful for something like this. Now, of course, the Pen F does certainly suit itself here on the street, you know, doing street photos. It's a beautiful, stylish camera, nice to wear. It attracts attention, though people do like it and look at it. I'm okay with that. You know, when I take pictures of people on the street, I actually prefer using wide or normal lenses, and in most cases, asking for permission, honestly. But I'm going to do something out of character for the purposes of the show today, because I want to play with another piece of kit. I'm going to try the brand new Olympus 300 F4, because we do have it. In fact, this big lens is hiding right here in between my legs. There it is. Now, I say big lens, but that's relative, because let's be honest, the beauty of the Micro Four Thirds system is that all of their lenses are way more compact than anybody else's. This is no bigger than a 70-200 2.8 on a traditional system, and yet I'm going to get 600 millimeters f4 out of this thing. I'm going to put it on the Pen F. It's going to look strange. Try out the autofocusing as well with this lens, and get some creeper shots around Calgary. Hey Paul, how's it going? I know you're from the store, of course. So we're rocking the brand new Pen F. What do you think about it?
That's super sexy.
Yeah?
Super, super sexy.
All right, so if I've got a grumpy look on my face, there's a good reason for it, much like that dude back there. There's good and bad so far. I'm going to talk about the good, but then there's a lot of bad here when it comes to autofocus that I'm finding right off the bat. Good stuff first. Now, single autofocus, quick, snappy, single point, you know, zone. You can move it around with the touch screen. Great, works fantastic. Also, I like, you know, back button autofocusing with a long lens like this in continuous autofocus makes a lot of sense on camera systems because it means that you basically get the best of both worlds. Hold the button down when I want it to focus, let go when I want it to stop. It's kind of the best of both. You can set it up here for function 1 to do that. And what I really like is that I can set up different profiles for single autofocus and continuous autofocus. You know, on a Nikon, for example, if I switch from continuous to single, I then also have to turn off the back button autofocus if I don't want to use that or use a separate bank or something, for example. Here, I can set up different profiles. When I'm in single autofocus, I use some buttons. When I'm in continuous, I can use others. On top of that, the Pen F does shoot 10 frames per second and 11 frames per second with electronic shutter mode. So if I've got this great customization, I've got a fast shooting camera, then why am I so grumpy? Well, that's because the continuous autofocus on this camera is just an absolute piece of turd. I mean, Jordan even shot his toddler very still, practical application, couldn't get him in focus a quarter of the time. And I'm shooting out here with good light, and just look at this. In continuous, this camera just cannot seem to do it. It's always second guessing, in and out, shaking back and forth. In fact, I get beautiful bokeh out of focus circles. I just don't get anything in focus. So I think we're going to change the CAF mode now to stand for beautiful out of focus bokeh circles, because that's all it's good for. I'm really actually quite disappointed in the implementation. This is a production camera. Maybe they'll fix it. It needs a firmware update. But as it is right now, folks, for sports, wildlife, or even just taking pictures of kids that don't move anywhere, it's just no good. So a couple of more observations here. You know, the grip, I was saying earlier, I really like it. With a 300 F4, it is a little bit weird to hold on to, although still, this is an unlikely combination. And again, I've talked about the shutter, but even in high-speed continuous shooting, this thing sounds great. Listen to this. Quiet, super stable, minimal slap. So it's a great platform. It's just I'm stuck with single autofocusing because the continuous is so bad. The Olympus Pen F, I know this is not a wildlife camera or a sports camera, we're not trying to do that, but even in street photography situations where I want to shoot quickly, I find that the processor's a little bit slow. I'm kind of waiting for photos to come up so I can look at them after I shoot them, you know. I just feel like I'm always, again, behind the curve when I'm trying to get my timing. Now, this is pretty typical of any camera from last year, but we're talking about a lot of fierce competition on the market now. So shooting the 300 F4 here and actually really enjoying it today. Shooting everything wide open because frankly I need the light. It's a long lens and it's not that bright, but also because this lens is so good wide open, and Jordan especially liked the out of focus renditions wide open at F4. You know, the lens is focusing quick. It's a really stable platform. I mean, image stabilization's working great. Great feel and weight. It's not heavy, and I'm getting such a tremendous long range out of this. So definitely a really nice addition for the 4/3 system. And check this out, Sony. Are you paying attention? That's all it takes, you know, push and pull manual focus to autofocus. Great for video. Gets rid of any focus by wire issues. Do it. I like the touchscreen. It's working well. It's just they didn't go far enough with it. The main problem I have with the touchscreen is that once you activate an option like continuous focus or mode or go into your menus, the touchscreen doesn't do anything anymore. So for example, hit my OK button, bring up my quick menu, there's all my stuff. I can touch anywhere I want, white balance, ISO, whatever. But then if I go in that, I have no touchscreen implementation. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't move around, you know. If I go into the menus and I want to use touchscreen, nothing happens. So it's very minimal what you actually use the touchscreen for. Honestly, you're only going to use it to move your focusing point around on the screen. That's about it. So I don't know. I just would have liked them to gone further. Maybe some custom functions on the screen that we could play with like Panasonic does. That would be nice. So it's on there. It's a feature, but it's just not implemented to its fullest extent. Now, the Pen F on Olympus does now introduce the 20 megapixel sensor that's floating around there. Panasonic have something similar on their GX8, and it's a nice increase. Now, what we've noticed on the Olympus is you're getting 4 extra megapixels and basically the same low light performance as their 16 megapixel sensors. So, not a huge improvement, although dynamic range does certainly look very good for a micro 4/3 sensor. You know, checking out the ISO here, again at 3200 ISO, the Olympus on micro 4/3 starts to get a little bit soft, same as what we've seen on their other cameras. And I will say that when you get up into the higher ISOs, although the wormy grain pattern that you get here does tend to blend in to look more organic, it does hurt your sharpness more than other cameras would. So keep that in mind. The other cool thing the Pen F incorporates that's been on some Olympus cameras before is the high-res shot mode. If nothing's moving, you got yourself a good tripod, you will get 50 megapixel JPEGs and 80 megapixel RAWs out of the Pen F. Better than their 5 Mark II as far as resolution goes because of the new sensor. Now taking a look at the photos here, you can see there is an improvement in sharpness close up. And of course the lack of aliasing filter helps that out as well. So again, in the right conditions, architecture, landscapes, this camera can deliver very big resolution, colossal print sizes. All right guys, so I've just started shooting a few videos here on the Pen F, and I've got to say this thing takes about as good a video as the original film Pen F does, which is to say it's next to useless. I'm really struggling with it here. I mean, first off, Olympus doesn't have great codecs, so yeah, you know, softer video quality, not great dynamic range, fair enough. I mean, to its credit, you can play with the highlights and shadow curve stuff, and that actually might be useful here for quick video clips. For the life of me, I can't figure out a way to record longer than 4-second clips on this thing. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but the fact that it's so hard to find out in here, well, that does say something about the way they've designed the menus. And that gets even more confusing there too. I've been trained so far shooting stills that the touchscreen is basically not for changing ISO or shutter speed and aperture. But the minute you go into movie mode, the touchscreen is for changing shutter speed, ISO, and aperture. I mean, this is just weird, confusing stuff. they've put some fun artsy stuff, again, very much in line with the Pen F. We can do classic, Old West, you know, film lines and darkening corners, you know, 12 frame per second kind of look. You got a dreamy, slow motion-y kind of effect. I mean, there's some fun stuff there, but any serious videographers be turned off. Not to mention, no mic jack, no headphone jack. So the Olympus Pen F is really designing the video features just to be a fun little frill and nothing serious in any way, shape, or form, which is unfortunate when you actually want to do a good job. So you got these stairs, they're weathered, they're rusted, cracked from constant rain and water. They're not weather sealed, and neither is the Olympus Pen F. I mean, that's okay. This is a street shooting camera, not something you're going to take out in the rain, so keep that in mind. It doesn't bother me, but don't let it get wet. All right, Jordan, so long day of shooting. Final thoughts. I really did enjoy using the Pen F.
Yeah, I think it was actually visible that you were really enjoying shooting with it.
Because it's such a beautiful camera and it's got such a great tactile feel and response. The dials, I like the grip, everything like that.
Yeah, I really like the dials and everything on it. I think you were most delighted by all the people telling you how beautiful your camera was when you were walking around.
It is a beautiful camera. In fact, I would say I cannot remember the last time since a classic film camera that I held a camera that was this gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a beautiful camera, but I do want to throw a little monkey wrench in it because it is a fairly expensive camera for what you get. The monkey wrench is this camera that no one seems to know or care about, okay? Now the GX8, same price point between these, almost exactly. Here we have a weather sealed body. Yours doesn't.
Yeah, that's not. Yes, but look how beautiful that solid billet of aluminum is on the front. Like, it's gorgeous.
It's great that it's all one solid piece, but does that make up for the fact that this thing has a tilty viewfinder that's actually quite a bit bigger magnification looking through it?
I mean, this viewfinder has the SOVF system. You get good dynamic range out of it, but also look at how pleasing it is aesthetically on the top of this camera, right over the screen. Just, you know, efficient use of space.
Look, like, I don't think this is a bad looking camera by any means, and on top of that, this has autofocus, especially in continuous, that actually, like, single point, it's amazingly fast, but the continuous focus also works beautifully on this. For stills and video, it does a really nice job.
Yeah, ignoring all of that very important and, you know, very pertinent information, this camera has class, and look at this Olympus pen.
But for me, what's really important is the video quality on the GX8. I mean, I've griped about the mic jack on it and stuff like that, but the raw video quality coming out of this is phenomenal, and more importantly, the menu system, when setting it up for video, makes logical sense for a normal human being. And it's absolutely a beautiful camera, and like, I love the feel of the dials, the control dials on everything are wonderful, but I do think you're paying a big premium for aesthetics on this camera, if you look at other similarly spec'd cameras.
I agree, and this is going to be really tough going up against the Sony A6300, for example, as well. But, you know, I still think, all superficial talk, you know, that we're putting into this thing, it is still a big part of the buying process. Good design actually sells cameras. The GX8 is practical, you know I love it, but when you put them side by side, this really is a classier camera. Everything
no question.
about it just looks so much better, and a lot of people are going to want to carry that around. The big problem I have with this camera is that they're aiming it at JPEG users with all these art filters, and they're missing out on the serious photographers. They're gonna be turned off by this because the movie mode sucks, the continuous AF is garbage. I really hope they fix that because they want to have a beautiful camera. Look at Nathan Elson, for example.
And I really think Fuji's kind of figured this style of camera out to a degree. There's a ton of controls on them, but they're all practical ones that enthusiasts and pros are gonna want to use.
I do want to get across though, very important I think, is the Pen F is not only gorgeous, but as a photographic platform, I really did enjoy it. But yeah, they left out a lot of key features, and that's unfortunate. But it is still going to sell really well because, frankly, it's just so beautiful. I'd actually like to see more manufacturers from other companies make more beautiful cameras. You know what I mean?
Well, hopefully this will sell very well, and that'll inspire them. We said the same thing with the E-M5 when it first came out.
Always
gorgeous
nice
camera. Sold really well.
Sold really well.
The original pens, ugly cameras, didn't sell so well.
Exactly. All right, guys, well, hopefully you enjoyed that. Check us out on Twitter.
Follow us on Instagram.
Absolutely. And subscribe, and of course, leave your own comments about what you think about the aesthetics of this camera.
I mean, some other things besides aesthetics as well, but yeah, it seems like the look is all people are going to talk about.
Let's get in a war about what it looks like. But it is an exciting new camera. I'm finally happy to see new design back in the system, and yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
See you soon.